That's me, sir.
That's
I'm
you.
done. I'm overcooked and done.
You done?
I'm done.
You officially retired.
Man, I retired 2 years ago almost.
Never coming back.
I ain't coming back.
DC's crushing.
You done?
I want to do this with you.
Alright, so I'm pretty sure that Mike Tyson hates Brendan Schaub these days because for some weird reason, Brendan loves to discredit Mike's boxing legacy and boxing knowledge in his podcasts, but I think what really killed their relationship for good is when Brendan showed a ton of disrespect about Mike's boxing skills straight to his face during a Super Bowl watch party back in 2022. And even though I have seen a great video made by American Redact about how Brendan crossed the line with Mike during this watch party, I actually don't think it really covers the whole story about how Brendan's actually been really phony with Mike throughout the years, and I'll explain how so in this video. So the first example that I want to bring up here is this podcast episode that Brendan made back in 2017 during the lead up to Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. Brendan's vibe throughout this portion of the podcast was really weird and disrespectful, especially with the things that he had to say about Mike. Just listen to what Brendan had to say in response to Mike's statement that Conor was going to get destroyed by Floyd.
I've never been a big Mike Tyson guy. I haven't. I think he's way overrated. I don't even have him in my top 5 of all-time heavyweights. There, I said it. Look up the records compared to Vander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Klitschko. He's not in the top. Muhammad Ali, George Foreman. I can keep going on with how he's not top 5. And look at name of the best guy he's beat. Spinks and go. There we go. And then when he fought really good guys, he lost. Anyways, and I'm not just saying this because he's shitting on this fight. But I don't care what he says. Who gives a fuck what Mike Tyson says, to be honest?
Okay, right off the bat, even though I don't think that there's anything wrong with Brendan defending Conor's chances at beating Floyd, even though we all know by now Conor actually didn't stand a chance against Floyd at all, but I think that Schaub came off really bitter and petty here, especially when he called Mike way overrated. And to be fair to Brendan, I don't know boxing all that much, but a lot of people who do also don't have Mike Tyson in their top 5 heavyweights of all time either. But the thing is, even if Mike is or isn't a top 5 all-time heavyweight, he was still the most feared boxer of his time and was the first undisputed heavyweight champion in the 3-belt era. So yeah, regardless of whether or not he's top 5, top 10, or a top 15 all-time heavyweight, I feel like the guy might actually know what he's talking about when it comes to boxing. Like, is Brendan, a guy who never had a professional boxing match himself, really trying to make it seem like his opinion on boxing is more legitimate than a guy who won 45 boxing fights over the course of 11 years? Anyways, listen to how Brendan defends the McGregor versus Mayweather boxing match while also insulting Mike's new career in movies and podcasting.
Okay, so he's going to make upwards of over $150 million. So when you say the biggest sucker rules, and he's fighting a guy at 147 pounds with 10-ounce gloves on, who is not a knockout artist. What the fuck are you talking about, Iron Mike? Go do fucking Hangover 7 or something. Why are you hating on a guy? Why are you hating on a guy? And if anyone should get this business plate, it should be him. So he has a new podcast out, which he was supposed to do the Finding the Kid, and we had to cancel on him because he was 2 hours late. So he's doing a podcast. So he did the live touring, which again, this is all great, man. But he's doing autographs at Field of Dreams in Las Vegas. He's constantly looking for attention. So why would you hate on this fight? Why would you hate on this fight? And it's going to be bigger than any fight Mike Tyson's ever been involved in. Let that simmer. If Mike Tyson came on our show, and this was my question, hey Mike, you've been in a lot of big fights. Does it bother you that Conor McGregor's Floyd Mayweather will be bigger than any fight you've ever been involved in? Go.
Like, what? Okay, so the fact that Brendan is trying to paint Mike as jealous or bitter that McGregor vs. Mayweather is going to be a bigger fight than any fight that Mike had ever done is ridiculous. I straight up don't even understand Brendan's logic here. Like, yeah, super fights that are happening in 2017 are naturally going to make more money than super fights that happened in the 80s. I'm sure Mike Tyson of all people understands that, and moreover, that's not even relevant to what Mike said. All Mike said is that Conor was going to lose the fight because he accepted a straight up boxing match against Floyd, which in hindsight turned out to be 100% accurate. Also, Brendan acting like a badass by claiming that if he were to ask Mike if it bothers him that May Mack is a bigger fight than any of his fights is hilarious to me, seeing as he did 2 podcasts with Mike after this and didn't have the balls to actually ask him this in either one. Yeah, man, this was just weird out of Brendan. I mean, obviously there's a bit of confirmation bias going on here, seeing as Conor got TKO'd by Floyd, so it's easy to look back at Brendan's takes here and laugh at how wrong he is, but that's honestly not my big takeaway takeaway from all of this. I think what's most strange about these clips is how weird and resentful Brendan acts towards Mike's boxing legacy and just his general boxing knowledge. Because if there's anybody in the world who should respect a former pro athlete who's trying to make a name for themselves in the world of entertainment and media, it should be Brendan, seeing as he crashed out of the NFL as well as the UFC and has been doing stand-up comedy and podcasting ever since. Like, where does Brendan get off disrespecting Mike for leveraging his name to make content when Brendan has been doing the exact same thing since 2014? Now, before we talk about the Super Bowl watch party where Brendan nearly gets himself knocked out by Mike, I want you to compare the clips that we just watched versus these clips from when Brendan had Mike on the Food Truck Diaries in 2021.
I've never been a big Mike Tyson guy. I haven't. I think he's way overrated.
He's the only man in the world that I would leave my studio to do a food truck with. He's the scariest man to ever enter the ring. It's Mike Tyson.
I don't even have him in my top 5 of all-time heavyweights. There, I said.
You're cemented, man. Like, you're good. Like, every person on this planet thinks Mike Tyson's one of the baddest motherfuckers to ever do it.
Name the best guy he's beat. Spinks and go. There we go. And then when he fought really good guys, he lost.
It's weird they don't listen to you, though.
I don't care what he says. Who gives a fuck what Mike Tyson says, to be honest?
If Mike Tyson tells me something about boxing, I'm listening to Mike Tyson on boxing. I don't know why these young kids don't listen.
Like, come on, man. Is this as pathetic to you guys as it is for me? This guy Brendan is just blatantly buttering Mike up, even though just a couple of years ago he was saying the complete opposite when Mike wasn't in the room. I feel like this is a perfect example of what people mean when they say that Brendan doesn't actually have any real opinions of his own and will say whatever he needs to say in that current moment. And don't get me wrong here, I don't expect Brendan to look Mike right in the eyes and tell him that he thinks he's way overrated or anything, but there's clearly a stark contrast between what Brendan said in this podcast versus how he's glazing Mike when they're standing face to face. And I understand that Brendan is trying to be a hospitable host to Mike in these clips, but at the same time, if Brendan knows that there's video of him disrespecting Mike's boxing legacy and belittling his boxing knowledge, then maybe try and avoid saying things that will make you look like a complete phony when you actually have him on your show. Alright, and now we've reached the main event of the evening. After years of Brendan throwing shade at Mike when he's not around and then acting like a two-face when he has Mike on his podcast, this is the event where Brendan crossed the line and where I really believe he permanently ruined his relationship with Mike Tyson. Because during the Super Bowl watch party that Mike hosted at his own house, Brendan was a guest in Mike's home. Brendan repeatedly made a ton of rude, snide remarks at Mike's expense, and even though Daniel Cormier urged Brendan to stop, he still didn't take the hint. Schaub started kicking off with his bullshit about 30 minutes into the watch party when he started downplaying how difficult boxing fights are compared to MMA fights.
It's different. These dudes go 36. That 36 minutes is a nightmare.
Right. But the 3-minute rounds.
3-minute rounds. But listen though, I feel like the 3-minute round makes you want to fight harder because it's shorter.
But they don't really get started until 6 rounds in.
Okay, not the worst thing in the world to say, because of course some people would probably struggle more in a boxing fight for 36 minutes, whereas some people might have a harder time fighting in MMA for 25. But seeing as Brendan has never fought in an MMA title fight, let alone a boxing title fight, it feels a little bit weird for him to be downplaying how difficult a championship boxing fight really is. Then things really start heating up when Brandon Marshall asks the group who would win between prime Mike Tyson versus Tyson Fury, and you can definitely tell that Mike was going to give a response, but then Brendan cuts him off.
Mike Tyson in his prime versus Fury in his prime. Who wins, Mike? That's the question.
Mike, before you answer, this is no disrespect to me.
He big, Mike.
Technically wise, Fury can go defense, his footwork, he's big. To me, as far as technique wise, Fury's the best we've ever had.
Listen, just him being Tyson Fury shows my greatness.
What is it?
He named after me. His name is Tyson.
His name is Tyson.
And his daddy, yeah, he could beat me.
Game over.
He could beat me. I don't care. His name is Tyson. Named after the greatest fighter ever lived.
Greatest fighter ever lived.
Did you guys catch that last part? After Mike says that Tyson was named after the greatest fighter that ever lived, I'm pretty sure that Brendan laughs and says, "Oh wow, I don't believe that."
He could beat me. I don't care. His name is Tyson. Named after the greatest fighter ever lived.
Greatest fighter ever lived. Right there.
Like, what the fuck? First of all, the fact that Brendan took it upon himself to open his mouth before anybody else just to say that he thinks that Tyson would beat Mike is pretty rude in and of itself. Like, did Brendan really think that this take was so important that he couldn't wait for Mike to give his thoughts on this make-believe fight first? It's just weird, man. Personally, I love Mike's response to this question, seeing as it's factually the truth. John Fury actually did name Tyson after Mike because John considered Mike to be the greatest fighter who ever lived. So for Schaub to just shrug off Mike's response just seems unnecessarily salty to me. And in response to this, Mike gets up out of his chair to do one of the scariest things that I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm done. I'm overcooked and done.
You done?
I'm done.
You officially retired.
Man, I retired 2 years ago almost.
Never coming back.
I ain't coming back.
DC's crushing.
You done?
I want to.
This guy Mike Tyson moves to stand up over Brendan and eat some fruit while staring him down the entire time, all while Brendan is too scared to look up at Mike. This is genuinely terrifying, and every time I watch this clip, I start getting scared on Brendan's behalf because I'm sure that even he knew that he was moments away from Mike sending his chin into space. Schaub just doesn't understand social cues all that well, nor has he ever been all that good at reading the room, and this should have been a moment where he realizes the things he's saying to Mike isn't appropriate, especially when he's a guest in the man's house, but of course it's Schaub and he keeps on pushing his luck. Because after Mike simmers down a little bit, Brendan gets confident enough to make fun of Mike for putting down a 5K bet, and Brendan makes a joke that you can tell Mike doesn't really appreciate.
I was gonna bet something in that quality, but they understand I can bet 5.
Oh, okay.
5.
So I don't feel
Y'all
as
only
bad
let
if
Mike
you
Tyson
lose.
bet 5?
5.
They don't want to.
You pay your guy to roll blunts that today, dog.
Then right here, when Mike answers DC's question about how much weed he smokes every day, you can see Brendan murmuring in DC's ear that Mike doesn't actually smoke as much as he claims because he doesn't finish his blunts, which is just a weird thing to do.
How much you smoke a day, you think?
50.
Yeah.
5?
Around 50.
Because you don't finish them.
No way, bro.
You won't finish it.
That's why you don't finish them.
Then after like 2 hours of Mike ignoring everything he says, Brendan tries to get Mike to grapple B. Marshall. He asks Mike multiple times to come over and grapple, but you can tell that Mike is outright ignoring him off camera.
Hey, Mike, come do TV. Mike, come do TV, big Mike.
Mike, come grapple.
Mike don't want to deal with Brandon, man.
I can't do this.
Mike, come grapple, dog.
Almost immediately after Brendan starts making fun of Mike Tyson's shoe size, this is when DC fully loses his patience with Brendan being annoying and urges Brendan to calm down.
You better hope Mike don't learn to kick with that size 14, B-Marsh.
Well, y'all gotta stop doing that on this foot. I don't think you like that, man. I don't think
Mike
you like that, man. You better chill, man. I don't think you like that, man.
It's a
He coming back. He coming back. Mike's coming back.
He'll get mad at you, bro. And
Yeah,
then once he gets mad, it's over. Once he gets mad, it's over.
I got him now. He's slow. Bam.
You don't want those problems.
No, bro. You don't want those Mike Tyson problems.
Nothing a double leg can't figure out.
Honestly, this part really irritates me from Brendan because even though he has one of his friends in DC just trying to give him good advice, he's so stubborn and clueless that he insists it's all in good fun, even when Mike has been clearly annoyed with Brendan for over 2 hours now by this point. Brendan is even dumb enough to say that he'll double leg Mike in his own house if Mike decided to get physical with him, which is such a lame thing to say. Like, dude, this guy lets Brendan in his house for this cool-ass event, and the entire time Brendan has been nagging Mike, disrespecting his boxing legacy, and just generally being a douche, and Brendan feels like all of that is okay just because he can out-grapple Mike, who's damn near pushing 60 years old. Then to top this all off, after DC tells him to chill out with being annoying to Mike, Brendan then says probably the most boneheaded thing he said this entire event when he says the following while Mike and B. Marshall are play fighting.
Oh, no.
Mike hit him with a bottle.
That's the prison rules, Mike.
I'm done.
That's the prison rules, man.
Like, Jesus Christ, either Brendan is really dumb and doesn't realize what he's saying, or he genuinely wants to get sent to a place where time doesn't exist. Mike was in prison for 3 years, and I'm sure that he doesn't view that as a particularly happy period in his life, so why is Brendan making jokes about it here? I mean, I barely know anything about boxing or Mike Tyson, but even I've seen the very famous video clips of Mike getting angry at journalists for asking about his past legal troubles, so I'm sure that Brendan has to know that Mike has done time. And even though I want to give Brendan the benefit of the doubt and chalk this up to a really unfortunate bad joke that he made up on the spot, seeing as Brendan had been acting like a doofus towards Mike this entire event, I can't help but feel like he knew what he was doing here. Alright, and that's everything from the watch party that's worth mentioning. As you can probably imagine, ever since this event, Mike hasn't done another piece of content with Brendan. And seeing as they made 3 pieces of long-form video content together in a year, the fact that Mike hasn't done anything with Brendan in the last 2.5 years does indicate to me that Mike doesn't want anything to do do with Brendan because of this watch party. But honestly, if Mike was actually paying attention throughout the years, then he'd already know that Brendan's held some bizarre, inexplicable disdain towards him this entire time and had been bad-mouthing his boxing legacy for a while now. And even though Brendan did a decent job at hiding his real feelings towards Mike's boxing abilities for the better part of a year during their 2 podcast appearances together, it seems like he could only hide it for so long because he really came out of pocket towards Mike during the Super Bowl watch party. And I've seen people say that Brendan had been drinking during the watch party and that might explain how annoying he was acting, and that may be true, I guess. But alcohol or not, Brendan is old enough to show basic manners and general respect to those around him, especially when he was a guest in Mike's home and was given a special position in the watch party. Like seriously, can you imagine you're invited by Mike to his super nice house and to be a featured guest for this Super Bowl event and you spend the entire time acting like a dick to the guy who invited you? It's just wild to me that Brendan did what he did here, and even though I try to defend Brendan when possible, I really don't agree with his behavior, not just even in the watch party I guess, but acting like such a phony towards Mike throughout the year they were making content together as well. Anyways, that's the video for today. Definitely let me know what you think about Brendan's relationship with Mike Tyson. Do you think Mike has cut ties with Brendan like I do, or do you think it's just a coincidence that they haven't done any more content together since the Super Bowl watch party? As always, if you like the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.